This is Eric Rutan of Cannibal Corpse. You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast with Andrew McKay Smith.
G'day everybody. Welcome to the show. Now, never let it be said that I don't deliver bang for your non-paying buck. Because I've got 4 members of a group from Melbourne called Escarion. 4 members to share their thoughts and opinions on what's going on in their world. You'll hear from Rhys, who's the bass guitarist, Lewis, who is the guitarist, Gaia on keyboards and vocals, and John, who plays guitars and is also on vocals. Now, there is an album that'll be coming out later on in October. So I ask if the tune, which you'll hear soon, if it resembles the rest of the music that will be across the album. We dissect its moody, melodic death metal sound, and we also examine the changing landscape of music consumption within social media and Spotify. So a diverse conversation, as you've come to anticipate. We also dive into a conversation about ideal tours, inspiration, band dynamics, you name it, it's all there. So here's Towards a Futile Existence, and once it's done, you'll hear from the members of Escarion. Let's go. Dicey has sent across your track. I've had a listen, but more importantly, I've seen the video. I really like the video, by the way. I love what you've done there. Shot in 4K, right? Because it looks like 4K to me.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, magnificent. And I love it when bands actually take the time to get into the devil of the detail, if you know what I'm saying. So anyway, listening to the new tune, a few things came to mind. Moody melodic death metal with a symphonic touch and plenty of driving fast passages, choppy rhythms, and gnarly guitar solos. Now, I've already asked for Johnny and Rhys on their take, so without actually giving it away, what you two think, what do you think, Gaia and Lewis? Have I hit the nail on there with the hammer, or would you care to add comment?
I like it. I think that's a great description.
Yeah, pretty much. It's I think it's the right blend of chaos and melodic and storytelling, I'll say.
Storytelling. Tell me a bit more about that aspect of it. Is that a lyrical thing, or are you storytelling through the different passages? Because I noticed what I liked about it too, and I should add, is it's a bit of a saga there. There's not just one or two, the routine of the one or two riffs you keep returning to. There's lots of variation there.
Yeah, well, with the music side, I wrote all the rhythm guitars in the space of about half an hour. It was just a very emotionally fueled night. I had a couple things in my personal life go down, and I picked up the guitar, and I also opened up GarageBand, because that's how I usually play GarageBand. I just hit record, and I just bashed out all these riffs, and I pretty much bashed out all the riffs within half an hour, and then it was just a matter of putting them into the structure of the song.
Is it democratic,
So
or do you go to the guys and say, this is how I want it, and there's sort of a bit of a vote in a roundabout way, or can you tell me about that process?
No, what happens with writing is a lot of the time I will write the guitar riffs, record them, send them over to the band. They have a listen to it, and they're like, I reckon we could work on this, or I reckon that's good, or I reckon we can change this up a bit. And then also, it's just the guitar riffs. Once we all get together, when everyone starts adding their parts and adding their flavor to it, it turns into a different song. Then you're like, hey, I really like what, for example, Rhys did with that part. How about we extend that part, or or maybe the lyrics won't fit that well if we keep this section for too long, and then we workshop it like that as a band.
How do you resolve your differences then? Did you do it in a rehearsal studio where it's like, well, if you've got a better idea, show us, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I believe so. Unless anyone else wants to correct me.
I don't feel like we have. Oh, sorry, you go.
When you say like resolve differences, like if say, do you mean like if we have a disagreement on like a riff Johnny has come up with per se? Is that what you mean? Like,
yeah, any and all of the above. So I'm also a musician too, and I just remember in years gone by, people would storm out of rehearsal studios if we were arguing about arrangements or what have you. You know, and I mean, this is back when I was a lot younger, of course, but
yeah, it doesn't really work like that with us. Like Johnny usually comes up with very solid really solid songs and riffs, and we make, as a band, it's our job to make it work as well on our end. So, when Johnny gives me a riff, I have to come up with a baseline that is satisfactory, not just to Johnny, but to myself because I'm going to be playing it live, to people. I've got to look like I'm enjoying myself playing a bass. So I've really got to compliment his riff that way.
Guy, what do you reckon?
I feel like we don't really have disagreements. Like, I don't know, from what I've seen anyway, I think it's such a creatively collaborative environment. I don't think as long as I've been in the band anyway, I don't think there's really been one major disagreement or fight, because there's definitely no hierarchy or sense of like, I don't know, everyone's coming at it from an equal plane, and we just all genuinely enjoy each other as musicians. And I don't know, I think like if there's ever any kind of like, oh, I'm not sure if I agree on that, there's never like, I haven't seen there's any hard feelings or any kind of like, we more like figure out how we can reach that middle ground rather than, have like a big blow up. That's how I see it anyway. I don't know if anyone disagrees.
Yeah, that's pretty much how I feel as well. And what Rhys was saying about bass, the main structure of the song that Johnny came up with initially, I think that's already pretty much very much agreeable for most of us. I guess we're just like trying to figure out all the variants, and then, hey, is this gonna be better this way or that? I don't think we've ever come across a moment where we have a very, 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 very strong feeling against something. So yeah, it's been pretty smooth sailing, I would say.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say that.
You go. Sorry, Gaia, you go.
I was just going to say, I don't think there's any sense that like anyone comes in and is like, this is how it has to be. Like, it's very much we all just work well together to, like if someone brings an idea and it's like, that's great, let's work on it, let's explore that. Like, which is nice.
I hear, yeah. And Lewis, what I was going to say is, you know your way around the fretboard. So with regards to your soloing, have you got stuff worked out in different keys beforehand? Because I know some musicians do that, and they have a bit of a solo bank, not a riff bank, but a solo bank. Or do you have to listen to the song more than just a few times and then come up with something that you think is really appropriate?
Lewis, do you want to go first, since you have the main solo for the song?
Yeah, so for this single, for Futile Existence, it's actually pretty I feel like Johnny has landed this on a nice silver plate for me. Like it's well structured. It's a very nice chord progression. It's a very nice build up. All I need to do is just to play, really. Like there's a little bit of like writing. Like I think I played just most of the time in studio. I'll just try to improvise new things, and then by the time we went to the studio, I already have a better idea of like, hey, that sounds good. Hey, this sounds good. And then from that point on, I kind of have gone like, yep, that's how I wanted it. But yeah, I don't think in this album I don't really go to Johnny and say, hey, can we change the solo structure? Can we change the chord progression? Can we make it faster? Can we make it different? I think I just slot it in. I think there's a bit of constraint as well. Like, I think we feel like we really want to get to studio and get things done as well, and we're pretty happy with what we have. And I don't like the idea of trying to achieve perfection in that sense. I just like, hey, it sounds good, let's go to the studio, let's make it final. And I'm very happy with how it turned out.
Cool.
I love Lewis's solo. I have the first solo. It's like the really short one. During that breakdown sort of part, I just improvised that. I didn't really know what I was going to do. I just did it, and then it was the first take. And Chris, our producer, was like, "Hey, that's pretty solid." He's like, "Do you want to take another take?" I'm like, "Yeah." I did another take. It was significantly worse. We're like, "All right, we'll just stick with the first one." It was good. So
one take number.
Yeah. I'm with solos. I do have like lick ideas that I keep in mind, but in general, I'm very much like free spirited when it comes to solos. I like to just go with what's going on in the moment. Most of the solos on the album that I did, I had maybe written a little bit of a general idea, except for a couple. A couple of them I just completely improvised, but most of them I had a general idea. Then I improvised the rest.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I was drawn to a conversation that I had with Mike Browning recently, and was talking about who's the guitarist that was in that band. That was Mike Davis, of course. How could I forget the great Mike Davis, who was a very strong influence over Trey Azagtov. And what Mike told me that Mike would do was he was so schooled with regards to scales and the various modes that they're in. Effectively, that's what the band's riffs and solos, they evolved all from that sort of thing. And I thought, wow, that basically means that it's infinite. You can dive into any scale and mix it up with any mode and just play it in any sort of, variation on the rhythm and the melody, and you can come up with a song provided you've got a tasteful idea of what a song sounds like. So I was sort of angling to see if you guys might have gone in that direction, but I'm myself, when it comes to playing as well, I'm a bit more, let's just see where like the Van Halen thing, who knows where these sounds come from. They just sort of come from somewhere cosmic, and you sort of channel them and just sort of have to sort of get out of their way.
Well, I'm Greek, so I grew up. I grew up with Greek music all around me, so I actually really like the darker sounding scales. So I love using the Phrygian dominant scale because it has that like almost the Arabic, Eastern European
great
sort of
metal
dark
scale.
sound.
Yeah.
So I love using that sort of stuff, and a lot of my riffs are based around that scale. Also, the classic harmonic minor, I love that as well.
Gaia, go for it.
Yeah, I think
Oh, Lewis,
I
sorry.
don't think I think about scales as much these days. Just try to, not even sure if things that I've done is strictly fit into any specific scale. Specifically, it's trying to let it flow, I guess, with a bit of music theory behind. But then it's not like I consciously try to, hey, you know what, this will sounds good. But yeah, there's a lot of way to do things.
What about, okay, so this is one song that I've heard. Now, I haven't dived deep into your back catalogue, even though I know you've got an album and an EP out there. Because oftentimes, especially when you're releasing a song like this, it's quite a strong song. It can be the pivot for taking the band into a different direction. So does this song strongly, does it resemble the new material you're writing? In other words, is this what we can expect moving forward?
Oh, indeed. Absolutely. And it's especially a strong beginning to what is to come for the new album. And moving forward, with the material we are making now, when we were writing this album, to begin with, we had it just in mind as a 4-piece death metal band. But Johnny always had in mind to take this band through a new direction of having more sounds with it. So that meant a keyboard and that meant clean vocals, hence Gaia. And moving forward, in songwriting terms, I believe with discussions we've had, we are going to have a more collaborative space for us to write together and really be more inclusive of everybody's styles, because we've got a lot of styles in this band. I mean, you have Johnny, who's deeply rooted in metal and the extreme side of it. Basically, he's probably into some really obscure death metal band as we speak that I've never. Yeah, there we go. Then you got Lewis, who's basically, he's got an old school style of thrash behind him, and it's distinctive. You can hear it in his playing. And then you got Tim, who's really into prog, and he listens to the weirdest, if I may speak freely, the most weirdest shit I've ever heard in my life. But he can listen to anything really and will accept music as is. And then you have Gaia. When you probably heard the song "Futile Existence," she has her own. She has presence, right? And you can see that's her style. It's atmospheric, it's gothic, it's beautiful, it's there, basically. She's there, basically. And then you got me, who listens. I can't really explain my sort of, because it's all over the place.
All rounder. Yeah, I get it. You're a bassist like I am, mate. So yeah, I get it. Yeah, you're forced to listen to everything when you're a bass player because it's just the deal. You can barely hear the bass in most metal releases these days. I was just watching Ingested when they played with Archspire, and they'd even have a bassist in their band, and that's fairly common with a lot of extreme outfits these days.
They've got a really good bass player. Archspire, as we speak. What's his name? Is it Jared Smith? Jared Smith is his name?
Not sure. I've interviewed the drummer, but I heard him. I mean, I saw it, and I don't know how those guys keep time because they're playing at bloody 210 beats per minute or higher, faster, I think, than that, and it's just so bloody noisy. One of the few gigs I almost had to go and take a break from because it was just so much of an onslaught. But they'll take that as a compliment, and they should. But talking about
bass though. Yeah, talking about bass though, we kept saying to Chris when we got our mixes back for the album, bass needs to be louder. We always want the bass to be popping because, as you said, you don't really hear it that much in death metal. It's kind of like almost shunned to the side, but Rhys is an incredible bass player. He has so much flavor. He's rarely ever playing exactly what the guitar's playing. He's always playing his own spin on things, his own spin on the riffs that just fit perfectly. And he's got some amazing, almost like lead bass style work on this album that it has to be heard. And we always wanted it to be louder.
Yeah, cool. You mentioned Chris a couple of times now. I'm 99% sure you're talking about Chris the Melko there.
Yeah, that's it.
Correct?
Yeah, that's him.
Yeah, good bloke, good bloke. And so I think you've mentioned already that not too many takes were required. Now, having spoken to Chris a bunch of times, I'd say that he also helps create an environment where you feel comfortable putting in your best performance. Would you say that's the case?
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, gotcha. I've had a lot of deep dives with him, and I asked him this question. So here we go for you guys. You've already mentioned, Rhys, you mentioned an album, okay? But it's not always about albums in 2023, if you can believe where we are. We're at almost 2024, but here we are. EPs, even them. Singles seem to be the order of the day for a lot of bands in terms of, I know that can be more of a metalcore, deathcore thing, but it's a very successful strategy for a lot of bands. Was there ever any doubt for you guys to record an album, or did you just discuss the single strategy?
Album's the way to go. I'm traditional. I love albums, and I love listening to albums from start to finish as they're supposed to be intended to listen to, in my opinion. Some of my favorite albums intended to be listened to from start to finish. Especially someone who's like, for example, a hip hop. I love hip hop as well. So I love Kendrick Lamar and his album To Pimp a Butterfly. That's 100% meant to be listened to from start to finish, as he has this beautiful poem that goes throughout the whole album. It starts off with just like one or two lines before a song, and then it's those same two lines except an extra 3 lines. And it just, by the end of the album, you listen to the whole poem from start to finish. And it's supposed to be like the album is like a story and a theme. Same thing that we sort of did with the first album, with the 7 Deadly Sins. We wanted it to be kind of like a story of going through like the 7 stages of hell. And same thing with this album. We just wanted it to be, we debated a lot about the structure of the album, which songs are going to sit where and how's it going to flow the best.
And we actually,
so it was always discussion about the album, yeah.
And we actually do have poetry in this album as well, written by Tim, that kind of anchors, adds to the mood and adds to that kind of storytelling element. So I think it's definitely best listened to as a piece.
Yeah, if I was gonna steel man the single strategy, I'd say it gives people an opportunity to get into your guys and then be able to take a cup of breath before the next thing is released. And if I was going to straw man albums, so I'm just playing devil's advocate here because I'm old school too, I'm an album guy. I'd say that they can be overwhelming for a lot of people. And I can tell you, I couldn't even guess how many releases I get each week. It'd be over 200, maybe, and that's just albums that I get sent globally. All of the, the PR companies and stuff, they send you stuff. But I must get, that's a guess. I mean, I could be out by 10 or 20 either way, but you know what I'm saying. There's the amount of releases out there, and there are some weeks, to be honest, especially around now, because around now is when you start getting all the albums before Christmas, a couple of months before Christmas. Bands have sort of got their shit together around about now, and PR companies and record labels tend to want to do things now and lead up. And it can become just so overwhelming. So, I just put that out there. But, playing devil's advocate for asking you the question, therefore, about touring and albums. Do you tour and then release the album, or do you release the album and then tour?
We're doing album then tour. Yeah,
because it's not always the way these days. I'm just speaking to someone fairly prominent about that, actually. And it kind of depends where you're at and where your fan base is actually up to as well. Because you can introduce the songs live and then release the album. That's the point. That's the devil in the detail on that one there. So, but you'll have it out before you start doing shows.
Yeah, it's out October 31st.
Yeah.
So that's exactly 2 weeks from now.
Yeah. And it's kind of what our fans expect of us to do anyway, because we did it for Pillars of the Faith, and it's kind of how other bands that we know are doing it. So, you would, record the album and then eventually release a new single, whatever it may be, and then you build up as much publicity for this album so people can listen to your brand new songs, your awesome new songs, and then you just go on as many shows as you can after the fact. It's kind of how it works for us, but maybe for like other bands, maybe that have a lot more prominence or a bigger fan base that, they can maybe do it in the interim, they can start touring beforehand. That's fair enough. But I think it works better for us as we just do it in like chronological order, release album and tour.
And I totally can see your point, Andrew. It's like these days we live in there's like oversaturation of like releases, and then we live in a world of ultra short attention span. But I don't know if the strategy that we have is the best in terms of like pushing sales, but then I think sticking with an album format is the right way for us. It's just we want to tell a complete story instead of like selling ourselves.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We'd want to tell our story, and the only way we can do that is through an album. One song, singles are cool, but I love listening to albums. I'm traditional, like for example, even like I try to stay as well away as I can from like what is it? The fast media where short attention spans.
The reels and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
Instagram.
reels and stuff. I mean, sometimes I get sucked into it and I watch it for a bit, but then I personally prefer reading a book or like watching, like if I'm going to do watch a video, I like watching long form podcasts, that sort of stuff. Like I like actual story in depth. I don't really want to sell our soul and become like just, I don't know, not bashing anyone that does it, but like, yeah.
Yeah, no, I get where you're coming from. Yeah. Well, you got to start where you want to start, and then just let it evolve over time. And if that means keeping on releasing albums, more power to you. Especially if you're talking about having poetry and having things that are woven in and in amongst all of the songs, like a unifying theme, if you like, without sort of going into a concept. But when you guys are playing, have you guys got some shows lined up with Chris and Orpheus and Triple Kill, that sort of thing? Is that where you guys land?
No, we did a show in Ballarat with them about a month ago or 2 months ago.
Yeah. Right.
But right now, we got two shows. We've got one in Ballarat, one in Sunbury lined up on a Friday, Saturday night. So, and then unfortunately with Melbourne, all the venues are pretty much booked right now. So we're trying to wait for an opening to, book a Melbourne show. It's causing us a bit of strife.
Yeah, that's what I mean about getting all of these releases that I'm getting at the moment. It's the same everywhere. All of the places are booked up because the bands are getting out there and doing their things. So what does your ideal, when I say tour, 4 or 5 shows, Eastern Seaboard, who would you love to tour with or to play some shows with? It can be anybody from Morbid Angel through to local bands.
I know exactly what Johnny's going to say. I know exactly. And I'm going to say it. And if I'm wrong, I'm never going to give myself. May I? Okay.
Yeah.
So this came up because they're actually coming to Australia, and every time we mention Behemoth, there's a big smile on his face. Basically, Johnny would. I reckon he would definitely love to do a Behemoth.
I think he would die on stage.
Yeah.
I think he would just would go to sing the first note and drop dead.
Yeah, I'd probably die of a heart attack on stage.
Well, Dicey's mates with Noble, you know that. Just hit Dicey up. See what he can do for you.
Really? No way.
I didn't know that.
All right, someone get email, speed dial.
Well, no, we have his email. I'll give you his phone number, Johnny.
Yeah, please do.
So you can make friends with Dicey.
You know what? I'm going to call him so much that he's going to have to block my number.
Yeah. I think it's probably easy to mention who he doesn't bloody know these days, or who he hasn't brought into the country or done tour managing for over in Europe when he was over there. So, yeah. But I mean, the world's your oyster when I'm not saying you guys are starting out, but the band's less than a decade old is what I mean by that, and you're still forging your way. And you if you don't ask, you don't receive, guys. It's that simple.
No, yeah, exactly right.
You got to put our foot through every door.
Exactly.
Well, yeah.
Every door.
You've almost got to get to a point where you become annoying, is what I've noticed. If you don't get to a point where the PR companies aren't forced to sort of send out a bunch of things because you've got all this new shit coming out. Like I really liked what Anthony and Triple Kill did recently, where they did the 24-hour. Was it a GoFundMe thing? It was a fundraising thing, I think, that they did for the band. And just trying to think.
I think it was a 24-hour live stream or something.
Yeah, something like that. But it's just you're just trying to think outside of the square. And I hate social media. I tell you that now. It was my major at university too, so it's not like I don't have any skin in the game. It's probably why I hate it, because I understand it, and I understand that we're all up against it. Unless you throw tons of money at the algorithm, it basically punts you down the bottom of the list. So you've got to you've got to be very creative around it all. So
even like we're on TikTok now. We're on TikTok now, and like we'll post a video and it'll get something like 15 views. But then if you promote it, if you pay $20 to promote it, you'll get 3,000 views. It's like, but still $20, 3,000 views. It's like, it's not much when you think about it.
Yeah.
And the audience is there. It's such a massive platform. You have to pay $20 just to get like 3,000 views. It's a bit messed up. It's a bit crooked. Someone's making a lot of money.
Yeah, and if you link from the platform, say to your website or whatever, it then drives you down the algorithm again because they want you to keep within that walled garden. That's how it works. So you're really up against it. Once you start getting into the nuts and bolts of how it works, like lift up the hood and look at the engine of it, it's really quite insidious.
Yeah, Chris was saying that as well. Like when we released the single, he's like, just post about this, the single with the album cover photo, have links in the comments. Otherwise, they're not going to promote it on the algorithm because the links are just going to, an outside source. They want to keep you boxed into Facebook, or same thing with Instagram, TikTok, and everything like that. They don't want you leaving that platform.
You've all got, I get it. You've all got roles and jobs and no doubt careers in and amongst all of that as well. But how far do you want to take this?
As far as we can. We should we can't really predict where we will be in 10 years' time realistically, but where we would like to be in 10 years' time is playing, bigger stages, having, entertaining a lot more people, having, already done a national tour or gone to many countries. We want to take Escarion as far as we can. For our not just everyone else's benefit, because we play awesome music.
I want Escarion full time.
Yeah,
I want Escarion full time.
Yeah, it's not a hobby band for anyone. That's what I really love. Is that no one's coming in I don't know. I feel like once you've cast something into the graveyard of hobbies, it's not ever going to be something that's that's fine if that's what you want to do, but no one's got that attitude in this band. It's very much it's a serious commitment.
I would much rather be playing music than, working a crappy job and waking up in 30 years and being like, what if I, actually put everything into music and just we got a shot to make it and we didn't take it. That would be I'd be rolling in my grave. Or I'd be alive, but I'll still be rolling,
Rolling above your grave.
Yeah, rolling above my grave. I would just roll off a cliff. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with Gaia. I don't even like the word hobby anymore these days. It feels like something you put in a second place in your life.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like hobby is one of those, especially for the arts, it's something that it's a word that people can throw around and be like, oh, it's great you've got that hobby. And it kind of discounts the amount of commitment emotionally and physically that it takes to be in a band or to do something like that. And I think for a lot of people, it's certainly for us, it's not something that you just do as a little, that's just a little a fun little thing I do on the weekend. It's it's something that's really important.
I get that all the time at my work because I'm a teacher, and then everyone in my office is just oh, it's good that you have a little hobby that you do, outside of school. I'm like, no, it's not a hobby. And they're like, oh, what do you mean it's not a hobby? I'm like, well, I had the choice. Be doing the thing that I absolutely love, that I'm passionate about for the rest of my life, or this. I know which one I'm choosing. Look, don't get me wrong, I love teaching as well, but if I had the choice between music, which is my absolute number one passion in the world, or my job right now, it's not even a discussion.
Yeah. Have you spoken to guys like Dave Haley, who that is their job? That is what they do. He's one of the few in Australia that's made it in that way. Have you had conversations with a bloke like him? Because as I say, he's a mate of Dicey's, and I only had a conversation with him recently, and I didn't go down this particular avenue of discussion with him. But so one guy I did, just very quick story before I rounded out with the question. But I spoke to Bob Daisley, and you guys probably know who Bob is, but Ozzy Osbourne's bass player, and wrote all the music and wrote the lyrics. So without Bob, he'd probably be dead, to be honest with you. A guy from Sydney, a guy from the suburbs of Sydney that went and actually did it, And when I spoke to him back in the day, 2002, when I was probably closer to your guys' age, the one thing he said to me straight away was, "Well, you're not going to make it in Australia. You've got to go abroad." So therein lies the quandary. And when I look at where Dave and Psychroptic have most of their commercial success, so a lot of success here, of course, but I'm talking about the volume of commercial success. It's Europe and the United States. So have you guys thought about the plan, how to get over there?
Not like it's like we've always said we've always wanted to go to places like, in particular, we wanted to try for Japan, most likely, because it seems like the one place we would get a lot. Not to say that any other country wouldn't give us, but like we probably the furthest we've gotten is saying, yeah, we want to go. We really want to go, but we haven't gotten there yet. So, but we will.
It's a discussion we got to have. 100%. I think we're going to see how this album goes. Hopefully we get a lot more listeners, a lot more fans through this album, through the shows that we're going to be doing. And after that, we can really sit down, have a discussion about the future. But right now it's looking bright.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I've just come back from Japan, actually. Magnificent country. Gosh, right into their metal too. The only country that I've been to that has not just one, but a series of dedicated heavy metal bars that are good. They're not just, a couple of goat's heads and the aesthetic. They've actually got the music and they're knowledgeable and they're playing Morbid Angel over the speakers. So that shocked me because I don't think I've ever seen that anywhere. So yeah, Japan's a good goal.
Yeah, and I think it goes even further than that. It's like, yeah, you can say that, hey, the heavy metal is thriving in the States or Australia, but then in Japan, it's more like you don't have like even like their mainstream pop market is very metal. Like they got like distorted guitars everywhere, and with like a children's song with like teenage boy band and stuff. It's just so normalized.
Yeah. I did notice that, actually. It was nothing for a regular person, just noticing, not that you can hear what people are listening to or what have you, but people's tolerance for heavy music is a lot higher there than it would be here. Most normal people, the normies here will go, turn that off, it's shit, whatever, or it's devil music or you're Satanists or whatever it might be, all the usual bullshit that we've copped over the years. But it's true also too in the Philippines too. My wife's mother's from the Philippines, and I mean, you just have to walk a couple of blocks over before you meet a guy in a Burzum t-shirt or what have you. It's pretty true across most of Asia, actually, that point there. You're able to sort of just wander around and you'll find a bloke within, I don't know, give it half an hour and you'll see someone in a heavy metal t-shirt. And it's certainly, I'm in Queensland. You may see somebody here, but it's going to be you're unlikely, put it that way.
Yeah. I've been to Scandinavia and it's very prominent there as well. But getting to Scandinavia from Melbourne would be ridiculously hard.
Yeah, well, I know I'm really good mates with Jamie Aston from Dimmu Borgir, and he did it. He did it back in the day, but he did it back in the day when it was impossibly difficult. And the stories he's got, when he went over to Norway. I'll let him tell them at his own accord, believe me. But it's moving from one country to another 30 years ago was not what it is now, I don't think. But, where there's a will, there's a way, isn't there? You just got to sort of forge ahead and have shared goals, which it sounds like you guys all do. And magic tends to happen when you do that.
100%. I can't wait for that magic to happen.
Are there any topics or anything else that you wanted to sort of bring up or talk about?
Just shout out to you, Andrew, for having us on here. Just very excited about the album. Can't wait. It's 8 tracks, and we're very excited because it's a very evolved sound compared to our first album. Our first album, I still love that album. It's got a close part of my place. It's got a place in my heart because it's the first album. But yeah, very happy with how this album turned out. I'm super proud of everyone involved, especially Gaia and Lewis coming into this album, first album with us. It's awesome. We can't wait to drop this album. We can't wait to write more songs, get album 3 written. That'll be really fun as well, especially because I feel like this album was like almost testing the waters with what we can do with our new members. I reckon album number 3 as well is going to be an even more evolved sound from number 2. Every album's just going to keep remaking ourselves, keep evolving as songwriters, as people. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, killer. Yeah. Anyone else on the panel there? You all look like a big panel up at the top of my Zoom thing. So it's like like we're on CNN or Sky News or something.
I guess, yeah, I just wanted to quickly say, like, leading on to what Johnny said, it's been such a like special experience for me because I joined like auditioning with my lyrics for Futile, and then kind of went straight into like writing the album. So I feel like this whole year that we've been working on the album has been my first year in the band. So it's kind of, yeah, it's cool to have had that be my introduction, and I feel like I'm so keen to work on the next one, and it's just been such a positive experience.
Nice. Lads, take us home. Rhys and Lewis, what else I'll leave the last word with you guys.
Lewis, I'll go last. You go.
Yeah, I mean, I guess when I joined Escarion last year, like I would have not imagined that we will end up with this kind of album. It's just such a far evolution from the traditional, extremely guitar-oriented death metal into a much more expansive, multi-dimensional thing. So it's great. Yeah. And stuff that you were talking about, Andrew, earlier about like going overseas and take it to the next level. That's I guess for me it feels like, because for me anyway, because I've been focused so much about what we have now, I haven't been seeing that far ahead. But then it's pretty inspiring now that thinking about it, but taking that step into the door, and then just we like you say, we need to pave our way, and then that's the only way that the magic will happen here. We can't just be content of where we are, and we have to look outside a bit.
We don't want to be a garage band for the rest of our lives.
Yeah, more than a hobby, as you say. It's not a hobby anymore. You guys are deadly serious about it. It's great to hear. Yeah. Rhys, leave the last word with you, mate.
It's me. It is me who has the last word. Look, with this new album coming out, like, it's been quite the journey. It's been quite crazy. From minute one, when we set out to make this album, I mean, like, it's become much bigger than I could have ever imagined it to have been. The sound, how much we've evolved that from point A to point B, which is now, and to see all these guys to really step up to the plate and really play their asses off on this new album and really pull a sweat, out of our lives to make sure this album sounds the best it can be, which it does, and it's excelled so much. And if we were to stop tomorrow, like, still, and we release the album, it'd be freaking fantastic still. Like, this album is great. It is fantastic. I'm like, when the masters came, and I haven't stopped listening to them. Like, if I'd be maybe self-indulged for a minute there, just having to listen to that bass part, just in that song Empire again, over Guy's lyrics, or having to listen to Zeitgeist, that really, the really start of Zeitgeist, how fast it is and how, old school Escarion it sounds. And, just to hear Tim's drumming in May Hell, Lord. I don't think any other drummer could have done that. I don't think anyone else in the world could have done this album, and I'm proud of this album for that reason. So, yeah, and obviously, thank you for having us on here,
thank you so
and
much.
also a big shout out to Dicey for organising this. Love that man, and also love Chris for producing this mammoth of an album and helping us out along the way.
Cool. Last point, where can people go? So we've obviously got Facebook and Instagram because I've seen them, but you got Bandcamp. Where can they buy the album, in other words, like physical copy, which is obviously the best way to support you guys?
Bandcamp, we don't have a physical copy. We were looking at printing vinyl. It's so expensive. But right now, it's probably something that we're going to release later down the line.
Hopefully next year.
Once we get the funds up. But Bandcamp, you can stream us on Spotify, Apple Music, I think Google Play, Tidal, all the streaming platforms we're on, but Bandcamp is probably the best place to buy our music if you want to.
And the merch, they can buy the T-shirts from there, can they? Or where can they get them from?
We're getting them sorted on Bandcamp. They'll be sorted by the time the album comes out in 2 weeks.
There you go. Call to action right there. Support the band by buying their merch and then turn up to their shows and buy lots of beer. Drink lots of beer. There you go. That's what I'm doing.
It's very cool merch. We all wear it.
It's glittery.
Good stuff.
Makes me look pretty.
Cool. I love the glittery stuff. I used to have those Cradle of Filth T-shirts that were designed by Chris Bell and Nigel Wingrove back in the day, and they had all this gold and silver and stuff on them, and they weren't feminine at all. They were really tough because of the graphics. If you remember those old graphics that they used to have on them, they weren't the sort of thing you could wear to church, put it that way. Great.
Yep.
Fantastic, guys. All right, fantastic discussion. You guys have got a great team.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thanks, team. Thanks very much, guys. All the best. Hopefully see you up here soon.
No worries. Thank you.
Well, there you have it. Just to recap, you heard from Rhys on bass, Lewis on guitars, Gaia on keyboards and vocals, and John on guitars and vocals as well. That's the members, minus a drummer, of a group called Escarion from Melbourne. Do check them out via the social and Bandcamp links that John mentioned just at the end there. Okay, if you enjoyed that chat, there are many more just like it over at scarsandguitars.com. And I know you're an intelligent audience because you're listening. And it means you like reading. And I've written a book, so you're in luck. So click the link in the banner on the website. On the front page there, you'll be taken to a marketplace of your choice and you can download a sample. You know what to do from there. Hit me up if you do actually purchase it. I really appreciate it. All right, some more information to share about the book is coming up. But before we get to that, I'll bid you a fond farewell. My name is Andrew Mackay-Smith, and I'm the host of the Scars and Guitars podcast. Until next time, it's a goodbye for now.
This is Eric Rattan of Cannibal Corpse. You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast with Andrew Mackay-Smith.
I've been the host of the Scars and Guitars podcast since 2017. The first musician I interviewed for the show was David Vincent from Morbid Angel, and things have just snowballed from there. In all, I've posted almost 650 podcast episodes featuring conversations with many of the leading lights of rock, heavy metal, and beyond. It just got to a point where I thought, I need to write a book about all this, so that's exactly what I did. In Scars and Guitars Volume 1, you'll read a heap of deep reveals and commentary, such as Des Fafara talking about Coal Chamber and why the band will never return.
You know, if you're a band just starting out, you need to hear me. Do not start a band with partners. Ever.
Yeah, wise words there. Sage advice, mate, for anybody.
Don't ever, because I can't go do Coal Chamber right now unless I get others involved.
Phil Anselmo talks about the episode in his career which gives him the greatest sense of accomplishment.
I think the staying power of the fans and the staying power of the songs, you know, whether it's Pantera, Down, or Superjoint, the fans remember the songs.
Alex Skolnick from Testament confirms that, yes, playing the guitar in Ozzy's band is anything but an ordinary gig. Will Silent Oz from Dimmu Borgir write a book? Pa from Sabaton gives advice to people who want to start a band.
Look at the team around you, look at the bandmates. If the guys want to be on the stage, then it's all cool. If the guys want to be backstage, then it's not gonna be cool.
Current and former members of Cradle of Filth discuss the band's seminal 90s material. Read about the reaction to George Lynch and Mark from Suicide Silence's comments when they throw shade at then President Donald Trump.
We have this idiotic monster, this egotistical, self-aggrandizing, complete piece of shit in there. I just can't understand how we've gotten to this place.
And yeah, we kicked a hornet's nest with Sepultura. Percussive overlord Gene Hoglan talks about recording with Chuck Schuldiner.
Chuck was always, he was very, very open-minded, and he was into having his musicians that were playing with him just reach out for the best stuff that they had.
Phil Campbell from Motorhead discusses what it takes to get sober. John Five answers his critics who dismiss his tenure with Marilyn Manson.
My name is John Five, and Manson gave me that name, and I had some of the best years of my life in that band and learned a lot.
And we get the lowdown on Treyarch Zagtoth from those who would know, including his mother. All across Scars and Guitars Volume 1, there are moments of tension, relief, tragedy, exhilaration, and throughout it all, you'll obtain insight that I believe no one else has managed to obtain from many of your favourite artists. So treat yourself. Scars and Guitars Volume 1 is currently available as an ebook with a print edition on the horizon. Follow the links attached and download a sample. I'm sure you'll be compelled to read the whole book.